Hey, how's it going, y'all? This is William, the permaculture consultant, and today we're doing another permaculture Q&A. Now, this is not the permaculture Q&A I promised about the chickens or the chicken tractor on steroids. That's coming in the future. But this one is a dedicated, just broad spectrum permaculture Q&A. Remember, if you have any questions regarding permaculture or homesteading or farming or anything like that, then leave it down below in the comment section with the hashtag permaculture Q&A at the beginning of it. That way I don't miss it, and we'll feature it in a future video. So that being said, oh, also don't forget Barbara O'Neill event. That's going to be in North Carolina. Details are linked down below. That's in March, as well as the Midwest Preparedness event, which is the free one. I know there was some confusion before about which one was the free one. The Barbara O'Neill event is about $500, I think, but they do sell day passes, which are considerably cheaper. The Midwest Preparedness Conference, which is the one with Joel Salatin in Kansas, that one is the free event. That is linked down below as well. Can't wait to see you guys there. And if you need a on-site permaculture consultation, hit up the email down below, and I'll come out to your property, give you a plan, what to do, where to do it, and when. So with that said, let's get on with the video. The first one is from Stephen Paul 4318. Hi William, awesome videos. I wanted to ask if the size of the biochar would affect its benefits in the soil. Would it have less of an effect if if I pulverize the biochar into like a powder form as compared to leaving it in large chunks? That's an awesome question. So basically, are big chunks better, or is like a powder form better? I would say like the large chunks still work perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with them. But I would say you get more bang for your buck if you can kind of pulverize it and increase the surface area of the biochar. The cool thing about the biochar is that it provides homes for microbes where homes aren't available for microbes. So for example, sandy soil, the microbes have nothing to like attach to. They have nothing to like build a home in or anything like that. So it's really hard for them to stay in one spot without getting washed down every time there's a rain event. With biochar, if you add biochar to a sandy soil or a tropical environment or subtropical or just sandy soil in general, if you add biochar, it then gives the microbes a home. If you increase the surface area of the biochar, then you're offering up more homes to the microbes, basically. So if you have like a large chunk, the center of that chunk isn't really going to be like available to the microbes to get to. But if you pulverize it and turn it into a powder, you're increasing the surface area, and now that the old middle of that big chunk is now its own piece, which is completely available for the microbes. So that's kind of how I view it. The chunks still perfectly work, and whenever I pulverize my biochar, I don't bring it to like a powder form. It's like a small crumble, like muffin crumbles or something like that. So hopefully that helps. This next one is from Coonies Are Great. I like that name. William, what's your opinion of using old refrigerators and freezers with adequate drainage holes for raised beds? I have access to many of them, and the refrigerant/compressors have been properly removed. Thank you for all the important information you provide. I have absolutely no problem with using the refrigerators or the freezers. And in fact, it might be like an awesome way to provide like stable temperatures through either the summer. Like if you have a random like super hot day, the soil might stay cooler because it has that insulation around the sides. And on super cold days, like random, like, you know, out of nowhere cold days, because the insulation is going to help keep the heat inside. So I think that would work pretty well as far as that goes. The only downside to that is that the plastic liner on the inside of the refrigerator or freezer might create like anaerobic conditions in contact with the soil, but it's not going to be that much different than most other raised beds. So I wouldn't totally concern yourself with that. Just definitely put in like enough drain holes for sure. And you could even keep the door on the refrigerator, and I don't know, maybe use it as like well, that probably wouldn't work. But I'm thinking there might be something you could do with the door where you maybe cut out the door and do like a shade cloth, or maybe even like a window or something like that, so you can like extend your growing seasons. Maybe, I don't know. Do some R&D on it, see what you come up with. But yeah, I have no problem at all with using old refrigerators and freezers as raised beds. In fact, there was a man that I see at the festivals pretty often. I mean, he comes to like all the festivals that are in Tennessee or near Tennessee. His name's Noel, but he has a raised bed garden full of just refrigerators and freezers. And yeah, anybody who's been to like SRF or KSL or anything like that, they're familiar with Noel. Noel's an awesome dude, but yeah, he has a bunch of refrigerators and freezers as raised beds. So hopefully that helps. This next one is from DHT Nursery Farm 5793. I know these guys. These guys are freaking awesome. Go check out their YouTube channel. William, a former coworker, opened a butcher shop within a couple miles of my house. He has an incinerator that he burns all the scraps in, or I can get blood or bone from him if I go clean up and get them for my time and energy. Is the ash good in my compost/garden? Is the blood better as a liquid? Bones good for anything other than making bone meal? I hate to see him throwing all that away, but not sure if I can do anything with it. So you basically have compost gold over there. All you have to do is add carbon, and probably a good decent amount of carbon. So if you're getting like all the blood, absolutely add it to the compost. Any bones, depending on the animal and the size of the bone, I would definitely add those to the compost as well. They actually break down pretty doggone quickly in the compost. Now, if it's like a cow's femur, that's going to take a minute. I would try to grind that down and maybe turn it into bone meal, which you could then add to your compost. But basically all of that, add to your compost and then apply to your orchard or your garden or whatever it is you want to apply it to. And in fact, a lot of that stuff, if you were doing the chicken tractor on steroid system, you could just put like the bones, the fat, the trimmings, the blood, all of that stuff into that first week compost cage. Let the chickens pick through it, and whatever they don't eat gets turned into compost, and then you're off and running. A lot of people will tell you not to put animal products in your compost. Those people are crazy, or they're doing cold compost. Don't do cold compost. Do the hot compost. It eliminates any weed seeds, any pathogens, or anything like that. And this was a question before, or a comment that I've seen before. Yes, 160 degrees is absolutely enough for the aerobic bacteria to take over and outcompete the anaerobic bacteria. Anaerobic bacteria, the bad guys, the pathogens, they can't stand high heat. And in fact, like 131 is like the point where those guys start dying. So yes, it does get hot enough. No, you're not going to kill everybody who eats stuff from your garden. So there you go. Hopefully that helps. Just add it all to the compost. This next one is from Janu5351. Where did you get that hoodie you were wearing? Now, I actually saw people like ask me this question, but I'm actually wearing the hoodie right now. If I can do this without screwing everything up. It's the, let me get that glare off. Yeah, it's that one. It's the Kentucky Sustainable Living Festival hoodie. Man, that was a lot to say right there. But yeah, if you go to the festival, if you buy tickets and stuff, I think you get a hoodie that goes along with it. And it's an awesome hoodie. It's like nice and comfortable. My wife, Emily, she wears hers all the time. I would say if you do go to the festival and you want to get a hoodie, I would say get a size larger. Like I usually wear like large size hoodies, like the size large. But on this one, I got XL, and because it will shrink a little bit after the first wash and stuff. So get a size extra, or even 2 sizes extra if you're going to layer it up. So yeah, KSL. Kentucky Sustainable Living. Go follow Jason and Shelly, that are both the founders of Kentucky Sustainable Living. Shelly is Two Old Crows Homestead. Jason is Kentucky Sustainable Living. So if you go check those out, they'll give you all the information on KSL, which is going to be in July this year. I don't think they've started announcing anything yet, but the festival is going to be in July. I know they're working on it right now. But yeah, it's an awesome festival. I can't wait to see you guys there. They have a freaking awesome venue. It's in Bowling Green, Kentucky, and it's at like the WCU, Western, or WKU. I don't know. It's at the university, that local university's ag center, and it's an awesome event. It's air conditioned, which is rare at homesteading festivals, which is good because it's going to be July in Kentucky. So can't wait to see you guys there. On to the next one. This one is from Shield Maiden for Christ 1310. I have several fruit trees in my yard that are very large and mature, maybe up to 40 years old. Currently, they have nothing under them but whatever grasses want to grow in our lawn, in quotations. Since the shade canopy is so large compared to what is in the video, what would be good things to plant? Northern Oregon climate, heavy clay soil. So you actually have a ton of options on what you can plant underneath that 40-foot tree. Since it's so big, you could plant, like, your 40-foot tree could be counted as like the overstory or the canopy of your forest. And keep in mind, there's 7 layers to a food forest, or at least this is debatable. There's definitely more layers once you get into the soil, but there's 7 layers of a food forest or of a forest. So you have your canopy. You could do your understory, which could be any kind of dwarf variety of fruit trees that don't require like absolute full sun. Like I wouldn't do peaches underneath those trees, but you could do something like apples, for example, or you could do pears, something that requires maybe a little bit more chill hours than like what you maybe get. So let's say you get on average, and I'm just throwing numbers out there, 30 days worth of chill hours. Sorry, I thought I heard something coming up on me. You could do something like, so let's say you get like 30 days worth of chill hours, and you have an apple variety that requires like, I don't know, maybe 35 days or 40 days worth of chill hours. You could try planting that underneath your 40-foot tree and see if that helps like achieve the chill hours, because it's not getting direct contact with the sun. So you could try something like that. But yeah, fill all the other 6 layers of your forest. You have your canopy. You could try your understory, your smaller trees basically. Throw in a bunch of different like bushes and shrubs. You could do a bunch of blueberries, kind of require full sun, but you could do something like black currants. Those don't. You could do like sea buckthorn. You could do, I mean, there's just a bunch of options. I wouldn't treat it any differently because of the shade than most of your other fruit tree guilds. The only difference I would make is like put larger varieties underneath that 40-foot tree. But yeah, you have a ton of options. I would recommend getting, and I recommend everybody getting, the book called Gaia's Garden. It's written by Toby Hemingway, but he does an awesome job of explaining fruit trees and their guilds and how you, for lack of better terms, companion plant trees with other things, as well as like basic permaculture design as well, like the locations of certain systems, like what makes sense, what doesn't make sense. Gaia's Garden, I highly recommend getting it. It's just an awesome book. This one is from Ready Fuel 17. Question for you, Will. I have a pile of compost that finished at the end of fall. I forgot about this completed compost pile and left it outside this winter. We get below freezing weather for weeks at a time up here. Has the freeze killed all the microbes and beneficials, or is this compost be good to go come spring? Thank you for your insight, and I hope the family is doing well. God bless. Thank you, sir. All right, so right here is a completed finished compost pile. I made it last fall. It stayed here through the winter. It's so small right now because I've been using it a lot lately, and in fact, I'm going to be piling more up into buckets here pretty soon. So the microbes aren't dead, I would say. I would say they're more of like a dormant stage right now. So one thing you could do come spring, once you get warmer temperatures, one thing you could do to like revitalize the compost is flip it. And while you're flipping it, add enough moisture. Remember, if you get 2 handfuls and squeeze them together, you should be forming 1 drop of water and letting it fall. Like that's the proper moisture content for your compost pile. But what I would do is flip it, and as you're flipping it, watering it, and then also I would add a food to your compost pile. So that food could be something like, could be sea kelp. It could be like a sprinkling of steel-cut oats. It could be like any number of things. I would just make sure the food source is like nice and clean. I like to make sure it's not providing any seeds or pathogens into your compost pile, because you don't want it to have to go through the whole thermophilic phase again just to make the compost aerobic and pathogen free. So that's what I would do. I would flip it, add water, and then add either steel-cut oats or some sea kelp, or depending on what your application is. If you're going for like a orchard, if it's for trees, like fruit trees or orchard application, then I would definitely do steel-cut oats, so that way you can feed the fungi. But if you're wanting more of a bacteria dominant compost, then you could add something like molasses to it to help feed the bacteria. So hopefully that helps. Your compost is not dead. It's just dormant right now, and that's kind of how you bring it back. And I would definitely wait to do that until you get out of the mostly freezing temperatures. Like, it's okay if it freezes at night every once in a while, but make sure you get out of like the majority of the freezing, and then you should be good. Now this one is from Andy126. When container gardening, how do you freshen up the soil? Some containers have citrus and pears, and some get tomatoes and seasonal vegetables. Thank you. So you could take something like your compost right here to freshen up your container gardening, which I would equate freshening up your container garden to adding more microbes to it. Maybe it's kind of going low on microbes, or the microbes are running out of food, which they shouldn't if you have something growing in there. But I get what you're trying to communicate. So what I would do is take your compost, and then I would get a 400 micron mesh bag. Now this is not a 400 micron mesh bag. This is actually a paint strainer, and I just leave it on this water spigot right here. But this is a paint strainer. So what you do is take a couple handfuls of your compost, put it in the paint strainer, and then you dunk that in a bucket. So the paint strainer is going to filter out all the big pieces, and then what you have left are basically the microbes that got knocked off the compost. So put it in the paint strainer, put it under the water in the bucket, make sure the bucket water is ambient temperature. If it's too hot or if it's too cold, it could shock the microbes and some of them die. Once that's underwater, you start massaging it gently. Make sure you knock off all the microbes. You should see the water turn brown. Those are humic and fulvic acids that the microbes have created in the compost. And then you can do that for about 30 seconds and then throw the handfuls of compost that you put in the bag, throw it back into the compost pile so it can get re-inoculated. And then you could like rinse and repeat a few times if you wanted to, and then use that water to water your container garden. Now that water could be diluted up to 20 times, but you don't have to. So that's just an option. Yeah, and that should definitely boost and help your container garden grow for sure. That technique is also called compost extract. It's a difference between compost extract and compost tea. Compost tea, the microbes are suspended in water and then they're grown, and then they produce glues and stuff like that. I've never done compost tea successfully, but compost extract is much easier. You're just stripping the microbes off, suspending them in water, and then pouring that on soil. So there you go. Hopefully that helps. Now that's going to be it for today. Remember, if you have any questions for yourself, comment down below with the hashtag permaculture Q&A at the beginning of it, so that way I don't miss it. If you don't use the hashtag, then there's a chance I just miss it because I scan through the comments looking for that hashtag for questions. So leave it down below. Can't wait to see you guys at these future festivals. They're all linked down below. And if you need a consultation, hit up the email. Thank you guys so much for watching. And until next time, we'll see you.